So I want to take a quick look at some concepts from 4-6. So the 4-6 concept check, some of you are struggling on, so I just want to clarify a few things. Problem 1 wants decimal answers for everyone. It's the same problem style. You're going to be rounding your decimals to the nearest hundredth. Problems 2 and 3 want exact answers with your completing the square. So that's where you're going to leave the square root of your number in the problem as it is, because it's not a perfect square. To help us better understand completing the square, I'm going to do another example of completing the square, kind of like what you'll see in the concept check. So remember, the first step of your completing the square process is to move the c value over. So we have x squared plus 8x plus 1 is going to become x squared plus 8x equals negative 1. Step 2 is to find your new value to add in, where we take our b over 2 squared. So in this case, it becomes 8 divided by 2 squared. Well, 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So for us, we're going to add the 16 here, and we're adding the 16 here. All right, and so for step 3, they want us to rewrite this. So we've got, so we're going to add it in there. So we've got x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals negative 1 plus 16. We can go ahead and simplify this if we want. Negative 1 plus 16 is just 15. So 15. Step 3 technically tells you need to factor this, so we're going to factor this down. Remember, this is a perfect square trinomial. So two numbers that multiply to be 16, that add to be 8, are both going to be 4 and 4. So this becomes x plus 4 squared. And we know it's a plus because there's both plus signs here. Equals 15. Step 4 is where they have us finding the roots. By that I mean taking the square roots. So x plus 4 squared equals 15. We'll square root here, and we'll square root here. The square root cancels, so we're left with x plus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 15. The last step from here would then be to solve this. And so I can solve this pretty easily. I know that I'm going to add negative 4 over. So in reality, your answer looks like, or subtract 4 over. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 15. For Alex, they're going to want you to enter your answer like this. Negative 4 plus the square root of 15, and then negative 4 minus the square root of 15, with the comma in between. So this is how they want it. And also on Alex, they're asking for this step here as well. They want your form, that's the form, and then this is the answer. And this would be an exact answer. The other thing I want to talk about is 4 and 5, where they ask you to write the quadratic in vertex form. We did a really quick example of an easy vertex form using the completing the square method. The ones on Alex are much more difficult. So what I recommend is going back to 4-2 and doing it the original way that we learned it. So that means how we would start this problem is we would go ahead and try to find our vertex. We can do this using the calculator or by hand. By hand, you're looking at calculating the negative b over 2a value, which is essentially your axis of symmetry. So in this case, negative b would be negative 8 over 2 times negative 2, which would be negative 8 divided by negative 4 would be 2. So that means my vertex point right now is just 2 comma something. Well, to find the rest of my vertex, I'll plug this into my original equation. So y equals negative 2 times 2 squared plus 8 times 2 minus 13. This is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8 plus 16 minus 13. In this case, I get y to equal negative 5. So that means my vertex point is 2, negative 5. So knowing my vertex, I have h and k. So if they want me to write this in vertex form, all I need to do is plug those values in, because I actually have everything I need in this case. So it's going to be y equals, and we steal the a from the original equation, so negative 2, x minus 2, because that's h, squared, minus 5 in this case, since our k is negative 5. So this would be our vertex form. This is how we did it in 4.2, and this is how I recommend doing it for these problems as well. There are a lot of extra steps when you try to use the completing the square method when you have a coefficient. So I don't recommend using it here unless you're super comfortable with it and you already know it, or I taught it to you individually. Make sure that you are reading the directions for the 4.6 concept check questions very carefully, because some ask for decimal answers, some ask for exact, so just be careful.